today we're gonna learn some skills that lots of people here need. Most of us very technical, but you can be very technical, but if you cannot sell yourself, that's a big problem. And then you will to yourself, and you will not share it with people, what you know. I'm very happy that Dan is here. I'm really looking forward to his presentation. I want to learn how to influence, how to convince ethically my colleagues to make a change in the impact organization. So, without taking any more time, Dan,
thank you. Hello. I think the slide deck behind me may automatically be, I think it's good. All right. Well, this is an amazing crowd. Can you hear me in the back? So, how many people here are, everybody here is, would you describe yourself as technical? Would that be accurate? Some no, most yes. How would you describe yourself?
I'm risk management.
Risk management. So, with risk.
Boo! I know.
Get out!
I missed whatever happened on Thursday, so I don't know what the inside is.
So, would you say, for risk management, would you say that it would be true that you have to pay attention to details?
Yeah.
Yeah. For technical, would it say that it would be true that you have to pay attention to details?
You can't not pay attention to details.
You can't not pay attention to details. Okay. So before I start, I want to acknowledge something. Okay? Well, first of all, I should introduce myself. My name is Dan Roshan. I'm a human behavioral specialist, and I help people to be able to understand how to communicate, how to use the soft skills to be able to get what you want. In your world, what I understand is that's often going to be that you're intending to influence before, a technical aspect, and you're intending to be able to get people to buy into what you do. Would that be accurate? Would that be a challenge in your business as well? That sometimes the companies that you work with or work for, that they're more invested in the technical aspects than they are the soft skill training of how to be able to communicate and be effective. Would that be true?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So what I want to acknowledge before I get started is I speak a different language than you do. And what I mean by me speaking a different language than you do you think how much I care about details that are vital? 0. Okay? Okay? I'm acknowledging that because I want to be authentic with you. I want to be vulnerable with you, and I want to be able to acknowledge the fact that we speak different languages. Does that make your language wrong? No. Does that make my language wrong? No. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to fill the gap between two people that if we were sitting if I was sitting in a conference room with you and we're looking at a problem, I'd be looking at that problem very differently than you'd be looking at it. I guarantee it. What you're looking at and what you're looking at is vital. What I'm looking at is how can we take this, the technical skills, and be able to then communicate it to the people that matter. And over the next 20 minutes or so, that's what I'm going to teach you today, and that's what we're going to talk about. Would that be useful for you to understand? Yes? Okay, great. Now, before I get into my presentation, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. What I just did was I modeled what I'm about to teach. So I started this conversation with following a pattern that will allow for me to connect with you and then ask you questions for you to think and then actively listen to your answers. As I was actively listening to your answers, I was finding that I was probably, for a few of you, connecting very well with my questions. For a few of you, maybe halfway with my questions. If I had a deeper knowledge of what you do specifically on a day-to-day basis, then the likelihood is I would have been closer to being able to make sure that 100% of those questions are landing. You guys follow me on this? All right. So what I want to do is I want to show you how you can have the soft skills to make a difference, how you can be able to influence ethically, and how you can make an impact to be able to make a meaningful difference in the world. Because I know that it's not just people that you protect, or not just systems that you protect, but ultimately it's people that you protect. The things that you work on protect systems. The systems, they may protect people as well, depending on what the systems are. Are we all aligned? So, let's talk about how you do that. And understanding that the real problem that we have, it's not technical, it is human. And so, people make decisions based off of emotion, which can be a real challenge for a technical person. How many here would consider yourself a logical person? Yeah. Okay. How many people here would consider yourself an emotional person? Some? There's somebody in the back there. Can you raise your hand, please? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. I'm not picking out on audience members. I know her very well. So she's my girlfriend. So she's the emotional one. I'm the logical one. All right. I don't know why this thing's flipping through here. So sorry for the. I'm not touching anything. I promise.
Yeah, it's been going all day.
Yeah.
It's haunted.
Yeah. It's okay. I don't need the slides. I'll keep you here, and I'll get to the slides when it's appropriate. I would suggest that each one of you is probably more logical than you are emotional. We all have emotions. Like, we're all emotional creatures, right? But what you have to understand is logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. So if you want to make a change for the people that you're influencing, the change comes from addressing the emotion. But your intuition is, well, let me explain this to you. Let me explain to you why this is a good idea. That's great. And that's going to let somebody to think. But if you want to make a difference, and if you want to be able to make an impact, then what you would be doing is to lay the facts out there in a way that allows for people to emotionally to take action. Because logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. Okay? Go ahead. I swear to you, I'm not touching a thing. Here's the thing.
I was going to say, maybe it's waving it around, I don't know.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to put that there. Okay. I don't need the slides. So, if you're taking notes, you may want to take notes on this, even if it's on your phone or wherever the case may be. If you're not able to take notes, that's okay. I'm gonna share this with you in a way that's gonna really be easy for you to comprehend. You guys good with that? Okay. So because it's such a small group, let's do a little interaction. Somebody here, what I want you to do right now is I want you to think about a time in your business, in your profession, that you had to influence somebody. Got it? Okay. Who would be willing to share with us what that influence was? Like, what was it that you had to influence? Go for it.
It's a daily struggle. I work for a company that's got a ton of lines of businesses. Company that's got a ton of line of businesses, so they've got their own sort of structure for everything, from a CEO down to CIO to everything else. So me sitting sort of in a central cyber group, trying to sell threat modeling to them, trying to sell best practices, that kind of stuff. It's a challenge because influencing them with their priorities and all that kind of stuff. So this is sort of a trying to learn how do you listen, how do you understand their pain points and kind of try to relate their part to it.
Okay. So understanding their pain points, okay? Now, this is where I want you to take notes. So let's start with the pain. So if I had my slides up here, you could see this visually, but I can do this without the slides. Over here on this side would be the pain. This is where we're starting. Over here on this side is the desire. Here's where we're going. Okay? Pain, desire. Influence moves from pain to desire. Your job is to start at the pain, which is, what is your pain? Okay, so if you look at this like a bridge, okay, you would be the bridge. So you start at the pain, you're the bridge, and then you bring them to the desire. When we look at the pain, we're going to break the pain into two segments. Internal pain, external pain. The internal pain would be something like, I'm overburdened, I'm overworked, I feel the stress of this situation. That's internal. It's like how you feel, okay? How you feel about a situation, and oftentimes that shows up as anxiety. Anxiety being, or fear. And oh, by the way, I'll give you a little sidebar here on fear. Fear and excitement are essentially the same emotion, and they essentially work the same way. This is important for you to understand an influence. What's the difference between fear and excitement? Or what's the similarities first? The similarities are that both fear and excitement are future-facing emotions about something that hasn't happened yet. Okay? Maybe if I ask one of you to come up here and speak, maybe you may be like, oh goodness, I don't want to do that. And then you may be like, oh, that causes me fear to do this. But you haven't done it yet. That's something in the future. Okay? Excitement is also something in the future. Okay? Me, when I speak, and I'm speaking in audiences of thousands of people, and I'm just as excited to be here with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 people as if it was 12,000 people. I really, truly am that excited. Yet some people, even if it's 12 people or 12,000 people, would have fear about that. Does that make sense? Okay. So now let's think about this. So we start over here with the pain. The pain's internal and external. Now you have the internal, which is the emotions. And you have the external things, which is just whatever it is externally that they're dealing with. Your job is to make sure that you recognize the pain up front. And then you be the bridge to bring them to the desire. The desire is also situated in a way that is internal and external. So maybe the desire, your desire would be that you use this threat modeling system to prevent problems. But then, what does that also give as a desire for the people who you're communicating with? It gives them as a desire, as okay, now I can have the safety and now I can be able to feel comfortable and confident that whatever system that I've got here is not going to get, not going to go haywire. All right, you guys follow me on that? So again, if I had slides, it's going to start with pain, internal, external. Desire, internal, external. Bridge, you're the bridge in between. Okay, that's a basic framework of communication. Now, let's break this down into three things, because I mentioned to you at the beginning of our conversation, I mentioned to you that I was modeling a system. So let me explain to you what that system is. That system is called the Consistent and Predictable Income Communication Model. At the end of this presentation, I'll introduce you to, so I've got a book, Teach to Sell, Why Top Salespeople Never Sell and What They Do Instead. That's being published by Simon & Schuster. I'm very grateful. One of the top 5 publishing companies in the entire planet is publishing my work. It makes me very proud. And in that book, I go through and I explain to you these systems that I'm talking to you right now. I explain to you the pain and pleasure bridge in that book, where I can explain it to you in a much more comprehensive manner. Okay, but what you're getting today is you're getting the thoughts, right? But if you want to dive deep into this so that you can ethically influence and you can make a meaningful change, then I'll give you a chance at the end of this conversation to get the book. So what I want to talk to you about is this, Consistent Predictable Income Communication Model. I'm going to call that CPI communication model for short. And this is what I modeled at the beginning of this conversation. Number one, if you want to write this down, is to be in rapport. So if you're sitting cross from a table, if you're in an organization and every single day you're struggling to be able to make influence, okay, because they have different priorities, this is how you do that. This is how you make an impact in your communication. So number one is to be in rapport.
What else?
Say again?
Can you explain what it means?
I will. But I'm going to get back to that in a second. I guarantee you in 5 minutes you're going to know exactly what it means. Number two, thank you. Number two is to ask adept questions. And I'm going to explain what that means as well. And number three is to actively listen. So I'll say these three again. Number one is to be in rapport. Number two is to ask adept questions. Number three is to actively listen. That's the model. That's the model I was following when I came up here and I began talking to you. So now, what are each of those components? So let's understand each of those components. So first of all, let me ask you, what do you believe rapport is? You can just shout out. We'll hear you. Trust. Relationship. What else?
Common understanding.
Common understanding. What else? Reflection. What else?
Level of comfort.
Level of comfort. Okay. Friendship.
Bit of friendship helps.
Friendship. I love it. What else? What you just described was either a method to develop rapport or the outcome of rapport. But I didn't hear anybody describe what rapport is. And that's common. Okay, I teach this again to thousands of people, so this is like that. That feedback that I just heard from you is common. So let me explain that to you. When you say friendship is an outcome of rapport. When you and I are in rapport at a deep, meaningful connection, it's possible that we can then develop a friendship. Trust is an outcome of rapport. Connection is rapport. So connection is rapport. So if you look at this, like being alike people, right? So there's like a common rapport amongst you that you are more alike because you're here at this conference than if you were just randomly walking in the streets in DC and you just look at the other audience, right? So there's already a community, there's already a bond here. That bond is a vehicle to be able to help you to gain a connection. So you have the bond. That's one of the ways that you can be able to gain connection. And again, when you get the book, you'll learn exactly all the different ways that you can gain connection. And then you have a connection, and then you have trust, you have friendship, and you have many other outcomes. You guys follow me? So now let's look at the middle, rapport. Rapport is a connection. What is it a connection of? What do you guys think?
Common interest.
Common interest?
Human connection.
Human connection? Okay.
Identity.
Say again? Identity? I love all these answers. Let me share it like this. We are spiritual beings manifested in a human condition. Okay? You're a spirit, we all are spiritual beings. And then when you look at me, you look at this being, this human manifestation, and you say, that's Dan Rochon. That's Bob Smith. Okay, that's Emil, that's whoever. And you don't consider that you're looking and you're communicating with a spiritual being. You consider that you're communicating with what's in front of you, which is a physical being. Okay? Would you all agree that we're spiritual beings? Yet we seldom, you don't agree with that? That's fine.
What do you mean by spiritual?
Well, when you were a little girl and you looked into that mirror, and what's your name?
Kim.
Kim, when you looked into a mirror when you were 8 years old, Kim was looking back at you, correct?
Okay, so you just mean like
individualism. I'm going to get there. Stick with me for a second here, because let me go through this. When you were 8 years old, you look in a mirror, and who did you see looking back at you?
Yeah, yourself.
You saw Kim looking back at you, right? when you were, and I know it's probably yesterday, 18 years old, and you're looking back, who was looking back at you?
Not my 18-year-old self.
Kim, okay? It was the same person looking back at you, but your body, your physical being looked different at 8 than 18. Would you say that that's correct? Okay, great. So your body changed, but inside that body, what's inside that body?
Brain.
Kim, your spirit, okay?
Okay.
Sorry, can we move past this? I think this is like a philosophical thing. But
Yeah.
we get the message.
Yeah,
We
no, I get
understand
it.
what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, physical versus...
This is a great thing here, because what's happening right now is I'm breaking rapport, which means that I'm breaking trust.
No, not at all. I just think, like, we want to learn the rest of it. Yeah, this is just like, yeah.
Fantastic. I promise you, 10 minutes from now, you're going to be very grateful. Just bear with me. Would that be cool?
I'm grateful, yeah.
All right.
I just don't care about the spirits debate. Yeah, it doesn't matter, right?
Okay.
Mental editor.
All right. So, what many people understand, there's a gentleman named Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who was a French priest and philosopher from the 1900s, who first mentioned this this context. Okay, so this is where I'm taking historical, and unfortunately, I don't have the time to go back into the data of where this information is coming from. Yet, we are spiritual beings in a human manifestation. When we connect within our spirits, okay, when we connect with our spirits, that is rapport. When we have conflict, okay, or we say, I'm not so sure if I believe in that, completely cool. Completely cool. Fantastic. That's the opposite of rapport. Okay, so when you notice that by actively listening, so I'm actively listening to you, I'm actively listening to Kim. What's your name?
Marco.
Marco, I'm actively listening to you. I'm paying attention to you. I see you. I see Kim. Okay? And I see when there's a disconnect. So my job as a communicator is to understand, hey, there's a disconnect. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. But when we have a connection of energy, then we gain rapport. When we are fluid and our spirits are connected, if you can imagine two ballroom dancers who are dancing fluidly with each other through the room, and they don't talk to each other, and they don't touch each other, but they just dance. Imagine like one person came in here, they know how to dance, another person came from the back door, and they come in, they start to dance, and they start to sing, and they start to move with each other. That's two spiritual beings in a human manifestation, that the spirits are, their energy is intermingling with each other. So step one is to connect with the energy. Step two is to then actively listen. So when I stepped into this room today, I said, hey, look, we speak a different language. That's a technique that can be used to be able to acknowledge just a reality. When I say, Marco, I get it. Kim, I get it. You don't agree with that statement. That's no sweat. No sweat at all. I'm not here to influence you to agree with that at all. What I'm here is to demonstrate to you that I hear what you're saying. Great. No sweat. But when we do connect at a deep level, when you feel seen, when you feel heard, then now I can start asking you questions to really get to understand what's important to you. So now I ask questions to understand what's important to you. Then I actively listen to the energy. Now, there was some verbal energy there where it's like, hey, can we just move on? Okay, that's verbal. Okay? But that verbal is also manifested in body posture. Our energy shows up in our body. Okay? Now, if you don't believe that, try to influence somebody like this the next time you're influencing. Or try to influence them like this. Okay? The same person right here, one is powerful. One is defeated, dejected. I want to be powerful when I'm communicating with others. I'm going to wrap this up in about 3 minutes here. So, the CPI communication model, and this is the model of influence. If you want to make an impact, you're in that room, you're in that environment, you have all these people that you want to influence. On a one-on-one basis, here's the model that works. Number one is to be in rapport. That's a connection of energy. Number two is to ask adept questions. Those are deep diving questions. Those are questions that are designed to be able to understand what the true root is internally and externally of the person that's in front of you. What's really important to you emotionally. What's really important to you in a way that is meaningful. And externally, what are your goals? And then actively listen. And when you actively listen and you notice, oh shoot, we're not in rapport, we're not connected, whether that's because it's a difference of education, of belief, of knowledge, of culture, of upbringing, of whatever it is, or a different language. You and I speak different languages. So for you and I to connect at a way that's deep and meaningful, I've got to step to you, I've got to see you, and I've got to understand you and respect you. Okay?
You have to do the same thing.
You can, yet communication is the response that you get. That's great that you understand that. But I have no control over whether you will or will not do that. The only thing I have control over is what I do. And I'm going to leave you here with this, okay? So I hope and I feel as though if I was not as effective today as I would have liked to have been in communicating this message to you. But at the very least, I hope that I open up your eyes to maybe see things in a different way, okay? To be able to understand that maybe my models of the world are correct and somebody else has a different model of the world, and that can also be correct. And in persuasion and influence, what I want you to understand is communication is the response that you get. So Marco, whether if you're stepping to me or not, whatever the response of this relationship is based off of me, from my responsibility. Now, on the other side of it, it's for you as well, and your communication with me. So, I'll summarize this all up to make it simple for you. Number one is move people when you're communicating with them from pain to pleasure through being the bridge. Internal, external, internal, external. Number two, consider using the CPI communication model. Be in rapport, ask adept questions, and actively listen to the answers. If you want to get a copy of my book, Teach to Sell, Why Top Salespeople Never Sell and What They Do Instead, you can visit www.teachtosellbook.com, and we may put a link up here. And then when you do, you'll get the digital training that people pay me $10,000 that we are sharing this as a pre-sale, because this book's being published by Simon & Schuster next year. So if you really want to dive deep into behavioral concepts and to be able to ethically influence, get the book, and it will demonstrate to you and it will cite to you the scientific rationale that I was less effective today to be able to communicate because of my limited amount of time. So we'll put that up here on the slide, and I invite for you to get a copy of the book. When you do, you'll get $10,000 of bonuses, because my mission in business is to help 1 million people to be able to understand how to be able to have consistent and predictable results in your business. So thank you for your time. Appreciate you.
Anyone wants to ask a question?
What was that acronym again?
CPI stands for Consistent and Predictable Income.
Income. Okay.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I got a question. I don't even.
Yeah.
You good?
Okay, so my name is Sean Brown. I'm a photographer today, but I'm also an entrepreneur and a business enthusiast. So I definitely resonate with everything you said, and I thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
In terms of teaching others how to sell, you spoke a lot about the emotional standpoint, right? From converting them from what's it called? Something to pleasure.
From pain to pleasure.
Right. can you explain that into a work environment?
Yeah.
Because say I'm not always selling a product or service, but
Yeah.
let's just say you're trying to convert a colleague or your boss, your VP or somebody on something or this, how we should move forward with this project.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So first of all, quickly, who would you, give me a quick example.
All right, I'm the lead strategist on this account for this company, and I got to pitch a campaign to my boss for it to get signed off for.
Okay.
And let's just say that my idea is 1,000% effective and scalable, but maybe I'm trying to convince that to a higher person that maybe doesn't see it.
So, gotcha. So first of all, you've got to identify what is that boss's pain. So now you may have a relationship and you may be able to get that, or you can ask the adept questions to be able to identify that. But most likely that boss is probably overworked, overwhelmed, and has a lot of different priorities. All right, so what you're trying to get the noise in there, right? You know, you're trying to break through the noise. Would you say that seems about accurate?
Essentially, yes.
Okay, cool. So now if I understand Mr. Boss or Mrs. Boss that your pain is you're overworked, you're overburdened, you got too many priorities, then that's what I'm going to emphasize. Now, how do you think somebody that's overworked, overburdened, and too many priorities, how do you think you're going to feel about that?
You're gonna feel not too good about that.
Not too good about that, okay? That's the pain, that's the internal pain. Boss, you probably don't feel good about the way that you got too many priorities, you got too much going on. Is that true? Yes, Mr. Boss? Great. And what's actually happening is I know that you have this priority, this priority, this priority. That's external. Okay, so you follow me on the pain there? All right, so that's the internal and the external pain. Now, boss, what I know what you want is I know that you want to be able to have less problems and less challenges so that you're less burdened. Is that true? And when you have that, you'll be able to have more time with your family, you'll have a better life, you'll be able to enjoy things more effectively. Is that true? Yes, boss, right? Like that's the pleasure. So, boss, when you implement this, whatever it is that you're selling them, you get to remove that overburden, that overwork, that overcapacitated, and you get to be able to spend time with your family. You get to be able to take time off of work, and you get to be able to spend the priorities with the people that you lead so that you can be more effective. Does that help you?
Yeah, that was 100% well said. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry for the brain fatigue.
You're good, man. You're good. You're good. Other questions?
Yeah, maybe I can ask a question.
Sure.
With these 3 steps, create rapport, ask deep questions, listen. I think I can ask deep questions and be a good listener, but how do you create rapport? First one-on-one, but also when you present, I imagine you also want to create rapport.
Yeah.
And that helps as well to have a good connection in the presentation.
Yeah.
For one-on-one and for the group.
Sure. So, first of all, when I say listen, what I'm saying is a little bit different of what I think you may have heard, which is not just listening to the words, but you're listening to the energy. Okay? Because the words is 7% of what's being communicated. The body is 93% of what's being communicated. So when you're actively listening, you're not just listening to the words, okay? But to answer your question, which is how do you gain rapport, there's a lot of techniques that you can be able to do that, which is like matching tonality, inflection, body language. If you and I were in a sales meeting right now and I'm sitting across from you, I'm probably going to sit like this.
Because you are.
Okay? So I'm going to model your physical posture. Okay? I'm going to model the way that you speak. I'm going to model the way of your tonality and your inflection so that I can make a connection. Those are some things that you can do to be able to gain rapport. If you're speaking in front of a group of audience, some things that you can do to be able to gain rapport is to pay attention peripherally. So I'm looking at you right now, and it looks like I'm looking right at you. But what I'm actually looking at is I'm actually looking over here at my hand. I see my hand, I'm looking at my hand right now. I'm not looking at your face, but it looks like I'm looking right at your face. But what I'm actually looking at is here. That allows me as a presenter to be able to pay attention to the energy of the room. And now as I look at the energy of the room, and this is a great example because the energy of this room, there was a time moment here where there was a major disconnect, which I was loving. Of course, I'd rather be connected, but I'm like, hey, this is great because this is going to allow for me to be able to demonstrate how you're able to take a lack of energy and then move it to a connection of energy. And I hope that you feel more connected to me in this moment than when the connection broke there in the beginning of my presentation. I feel more connected to you. Okay, and oh, by the way, the last thing when you're looking at the rapport is, why do I feel that there's probably better connection? It's because I feel it. When you're in rapport, you will physically feel that rapport internally. Okay? And I feel connected to you in my body right now, which means that it's more likely that you also feel connected with me. Do you have another question? And I'm happy to answer questions until the next speaker kicks me out of here. But
Yeah, we have another speaker in 3
Yeah.
minutes, our ceremony, but I want to benefit the last 2 minutes also.
Sure.
Here. I can recognize when people have a pain,
Yeah.
right, a problem. I do recognize their desire and how to build a bridge to bring them. Can you connect it to closing the deal, closing the sale?
Yeah. So when you provide yourself as a solution for the sale, okay, and so in a sales conversation, it's what's the internal, external pain? How do I bring the internal and external desire? Get, teach, to sell book, that will get you there. That's your bridge right there. That's me selling you the book. Okay? Right now, you may be in a place where you're concerned about making an influence in your business. That makes you feel like crap. That makes you feel frustrated. That makes you feel like if they would just do this, I know that they can save problems. Okay? But I don't know how to do that. That's your pain right now. What you want is you want to be able to make an influence, because when you're able to make an influence, you're able to make an impact, you're able to make a difference, and you're able to make it to change in your workplace and in the world. That's what you want. That's the solution. Okay? That's the desire of what you want. And when you do that, imagine how you're going to feel. You're going to feel freaking awesome. What's the tool, the thing that I'm selling, to get you from here to here? Get the book. Okay? That's how you use these philosophies in sales. Does that make sense? And when you get the book, you'll not only have the blueprint to be able to ethically influence, but you also have activation within the community that this took me about 40 years to put together. I was having a conversation earlier. It took me probably, they say it takes 10,000 hours to master something. I'm probably at around 60,000 hours in at this point. And I've documented it, and I can communicate it in a way that's meaningful and understood. Okay? This book, 294 pages, takes 50 or 60,000 hours and condenses into a blueprint for you to be able to ethically influence and get what you want. So thank you for your time. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.